Welcome back to Sunday Morning Magazine. I'm Anthony Vigil, and in the studio, OKC Food Hub. And welcome in, guys. Let's go one by one and introduce yourselves.
Sure. I am Jenna Moore, the director of the OKC Food Hub.
I'm Rachel Kretschmar. I'm manager of operations and logistics for the Food Hub.
I am Ronaldo Lemons, and I am the producer support.
And let's first start by giving us some background on what OKC Food Hub is all about.
Sure, yeah. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are coming up on our third year of existence here. And the reason that we exist at all is we're kind of a liaison between local food producers in our state and then areas that need access to more fresh local produce across Oklahoma, which is pretty much the whole state of Oklahoma. But we're working on building a better food system through that space. And so what that really means is supporting all of our particularly small and mid-sized fruit and vegetable growers. And the big ways that we do that is we provide access to them for a bigger market. So many of them are selling direct to consumer, which is like farmers markets or, where you typically will run into these type of producers. But they need more space for those consistent and larger scale sales. And so we're trying to open up the market into like institutional markets and different programs, selling to tribes, selling to restaurants, selling to food banks, and just so that they can be more viable as businesses. And along with that, with increasing the market access to the producers, we also provide different support services. So that could be, helping them get grants to put infrastructure into their farms or helping them to learn about what produce safety is so that they can comply with all the requirements and be able to sell into other markets. Being a farmer is really complicated. It sounds easy, but it's not as simple as just growing things, especially if you're trying to grow food. And so we try to make that easier for the producers. And then on the other side, we're really cognizant of where is this food going. So we have a great partnership with the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma through some grant programs that have started, trying to increase local produce that they can distribute out through their network. And then, like I said, we also work with some tribes. We work with schools, trying to get local produce into schools all across the state. So really those spaces that need increased access to fresh produce, we're focused on that as well.
Are you able to produce fresh produce all throughout the year?
Yes, we are. We had producers growing lettuce throughout the year. We actually Ronaldo took a pretty big delivery of lettuce to the Chickasaw Nation on New Year's Eve.
Oh.
So yeah, we had growers growing lettuce all throughout the year. We have we have tomatoes pretty much year round.
Yeah, there's definitely some off-season growers that use big infrastructure like greenhouses or hoop houses to extend the season. We're not as perfectly around the year with every product that, we sometimes have to educate different customers that we're working with because they're like, I want the exact same cucumber like every single month. And that's how I'm used to buying from like Cisco or a more wholesale market. We can't quite emulate that. We're working on, having some consistent products, but there is always going to be a seasonal element to local produce. And so it's kind of finding a middle ground of what products can we move all year, and then how can we educate the people who are buying about, this is really good right now because it's in season and it's really fresh. So.
And Rachel, what's your day-to-day look like?
Well, my day-to-day looks like it's great. It's a pretty big variety. My daughter was asking me yesterday, Mom, what do you do when you go to work? And it really just depends on the day. But it can be, helping buyers with their orders and straightening out invoicing and things like that. It can be production planning with our farmers, trying to find out what they're planning to grow for the season and how much and when it'll be available so we can try to coordinate that with our buyers. Helping on the back end with some, anything that's in a spreadsheet, basically. But also, we're a pretty new organization, trying to find trying to find our way and find our place. And so that really takes all four of us kind of doing lots of different things all at the same time.
And what are some of the challenges you guys have faced?
There are many, many challenges that we are always facing. I mean, getting up and started, just trying to get producers access to markets. That's probably like the biggest and most compelling reason why we started again, just to figure out how, when you go to your local grocery store, why don't I see, local products in the store? That's a question that we're asking about all the spaces that we eat. So when we go to the hospital, like, why is there no local produce there? When my kid goes to school, why isn't there local produce there? So that challenge is essentially the crux of why we exist and how we can help farmers. And then depending, on which outlet it is, there's a different answer to that question. So schools is a whole black box. We could do a whole episode on that. But there's a lot of different reasons why local produce isn't in all these spaces, and so those are things we wrestle with every day. Besides that, the challenges farmers are facing every day. The weather in Oklahoma is crazy. There's a gap between how we used to have a lot of farmers that were growing food for communities and people moving off the farm, people not coming back in to replace those, and then new people trying to start up, trying to do practices that take care of the environment and feed people and pay people well. There's huge challenges in starting a farm if you have not farmed before, that we're trying to reduce the barriers as well. And then just us as an organization, there's no real infrastructure in the middle of the supply chain for product to move from these farmers into the regular distribution system. So us as an organization, we're facing infrastructure challenges. We're largely grant funded. We're facing, challenges in that space with keeping money coming in while we build up to a scale that we can be more self-sufficient. So there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any particular ones either of you wanted to
No,
highlight.
I mean, basically, we need help. We need help from the community. We need people that have funds, people that can help to build this structure. We have the know-how, we have the experience, but a lot of times, new organizations, we're lacking the capital to create the infrastructure that we need to actually move into the spaces that would help these local farmers. And so if there is somebody listening and somebody out there in the community who is interested in philanthropy in the area of agriculture, we would really love for them to reach out and give us a call and have a conversation. All of the research, there's a lot of research has been done. There's a lot of just a lot of research and a lot of attention have been paid to the small, intricate parts that make this thing work. So,
And so you guys aren't in a physical building, so that's probably another challenge, right?
yes.
Definitely. That is a big logistical challenge for us. We can't hold and store inventory easily, so that does make aggregation and delivery.
So right now we are in partnership with the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma, and they allow us one of their gates or doors, and there's a space there in which we have all of our farmers who are dropping off their harvest to be sold. They drop off whatever has been sold, and we organize it to each buyer. And then once we get that organized and checked off, we load it in our van and we deliver it. And so we don't need we don't need a lot of space to do what we do in that sense of it. But in order for us to be able to grow,
Mm-hmm.
You know, in order for us to be able to grow, we need some space, and we need some cold storage, and we need some infrastructure. And that way, if we had that infrastructure, we could buy more from our farmers, and we could supply more to the buyers who want to buy those seasonal things that you're talking about. We'll be able to have some seasonal things. We'll be able to expand from just vegetables and produce to be able to maybe do eggs and do meat and do milk and things like that. So, but we're able to handle what we have right now, but we would love to expand and do more.
So every Tuesday, we run down to the food bank, and all of the producers come and they drop off what they've got and get it all sorted, and then Ronaldo gets it back out to where it needs to go in the same day. So that's a pretty tight turnaround. So yeah, our own space would definitely be very helpful.
We pretty much come from not having anything at all and being very creative, flexible, and like changing on a dime on the last minute. That's kind of like the underline of what this organization is. And then every dollar that we're able to get, we put it back in, try to save it, and then leverage up so we can get a little bit bigger in a very strategic way. We work with a lot of different partners as well. So, for example, we get produce to all of the schools. We wouldn't be able to do that just ourselves, like with a van. But we have some farm partners who have helped us out. Like maybe they come to drop off and then fill up their truck and take a delivery back out to the area that they're going to. We work with traditional distribution companies that hold contracts for the schools around the state. So we can drop to one central location in Oklahoma City and send that produce out to all the different schools, which we never could reach like on our own. Or like for tribal partners, they come and pick up, and then they can distribute to the programs that they need. So we're very good at building relationships and kind of leveraging the community to increase what we could do on our own, despite not having, the most ideal infrastructure situation, which we're working on.
Right.
And
right.
did we explain what a food hub is, really?
I don't know if we did. Let's
Okay.
go into it.
Yeah, so a food hub traditionally is kind of a model where we're one organization and we're in the middle, right? So we have a pretty good number of farmers. They bring all of their product to us, and then we're able to aggregate that product and send it back out to multiple buyers. Whereas if you have a small scale farmer who maybe is doing farmers markets, maybe is not producing the volume needed to be able to fulfill larger contracts. But if we can get 5 to 10 of those farmers together, then it makes it more possible to get local food into those spaces. I've dealt with questions from family members that are like, well, why can't farmers just go to the grocery store and sell their watermelons to Homeland? And it's like, well, there are a lot of steps in that process. First there's the volume of what's required. There's produce safety requirements that grocery stores are going to require that are hard for individual farmers to maintain without some support. So we kind of step in as that middleman to help.
And distribution is another huge piece.
Distribution is a huge piece.
A farmer should be on the farm. They're already running as many hours a week as they possibly can just to get out what they're growing right now. And so if they have to take a day and go to like 15 different schools to drop off like 2 boxes of watermelons, that's going to take them 2 days out of the field, plus another 3 days to make sure they're complying with all the administrative requirements. And then they need to wait on like getting paid because schools don't turn around every month and a half. So for many administrative, distribution,
marketing, like all of, a lot of farmers, if they're doing farmers market or if they have their own direct to consumer, like a produce stand on the farm, they're spending a lot of time on social media promoting their brand and trying to find those buyers. But the farms that we work with, we're not an either or.
Right.
So we can help supplement that business, and we're the ones going out to actively find those buyers. So they're spending, the time growing their food, processing their food. Well, not processing. That's not a word we're supposed to use. Getting their food ready for delivery. And then they bring it to us. And by noon on Tuesday,
one drop and they're done.
yeah, one drop and they're done. And
Right.
then by noon on Tuesday, they're back on their farm. I think part of it was just the education piece. Like talking about where our food comes from, why the food systems are kind of complicated, and also just I think the general population, myself included, we don't have the best idea of maybe what good food means,
Right.
and why local food is important in our food system.
Yeah, we need to get our legislature, our governmental managers, whatever you want to call them. We need to get those people who make the laws involved in creating a system that is going to be a win-win for Oklahoma as a state. When you buy, when you have a system that is buying into itself, then it's going to grow itself. We need our legislature to either encourage the institutions and the agencies to first make their first attempt at buying produce or anything. Make that first attempt an attempt at buying local. You know, we need to have some acts and some laws in place and some legislation in place that would, you know, encourage our institutions and our businesses and our organizations to purchase their food from a local source, you know, here in Oklahoma. Whenever there are grants or whenever there is money given to the government, that money needs to be first, it needs to be given to the economy of Oklahoma before it's given to the economy somewhere else, in Texas, in Kansas, in Arkansas, all of the surrounding states. We are buying so much produce and so much of our groceries from out of state and even international. If you would only, if we would only do 10%, you know, if we would only probably could do 10 to 15%, change that procuring produce and everything from outside of the state. If we would only, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say. Help me out, Jeff. We could guide that money,
Right.
those funds and that capital. I'm saying only about 10% of that money
Yeah,
back to our local economy. That's where I'm trying. Back to our local economy. It would support so many lives, so many families, and at the same time, it would create a more healthy outlook for our people. With this state being last in health, being last in education, being last in all of these things,
Food security.
that I don't understand why no one is looking legislatively at how can we change these things? How can we plan strategically and put some systems and some infrastructure in place so that we are supplying the people who need it the most, the people who are the people who are in places who are unable to access this fresh food. But not only that, also the things that are in place, the grocery stores that are in place, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, that there is or there was an attempt to get grocery stores to purchase local, and I'm not sure that anyone is like checking back up on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, and double checking and seeing if those things are happening. So we could have things in place that no one is actually, you know, going back and making sure though that the things that were put in place are happening. But that being said, you know, I think that our legislature should be involved in creating a food system for Oklahoma. If you go to the West Coast, if you go to the East Coast, if you go to the Midwest, all of those states have a robust system and infrastructure where their local farmers are able to buy into that system and take care of their families and take care of other families. You know, we didn't come up with Food Hub. Food Hub is something that is done around the country. But again, Oklahoma being behind, and I love Oklahoma, but we are just being honest, being behind.
Yeah.
Other states have been running food hubs for years, and this is our only one. And if I am a promoter of the state of Oklahoma, if I believe in the state of Oklahoma, if I love the state of Oklahoma, and I'm looking around and I'm saying, oh my goodness, all of these other states have such beautiful farmers markets. They have such a beautiful system using these food hubs. If I'm somebody that's making decisions, if I'm somebody that's in a place to be able to make things happen and to make things change, why would I not want to take care of my state and have my state, in the same place and competing? Because we all competing.
Yeah.
We love the Sooners. And whenever the Sooners go anywhere else in the country, we're backing the Sooners. Do
We
or
love
die.
the Cowboys too, right?
And we love yes.
Just gonna say.
We do. I do. I don't have a dog in the fight either way, but I'm just giving the example.
Right.
A lot of people love the Sooners. A lot of people love the Cowboys. We love our competitive sports. But when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to fruits and vegetables on a local level, we are also competing, because if the system breaks down, AKA pandemic happens, and nobody is delivering and bringing things in, how is Oklahoma going to sustain itself? All of you think these other states don't have that in mind, or don't have a contingency plan, or don't are not subsidizing their state farmers to a point to where they know if the system breaks down that Oklahoma will be able to survive, at least to this point, But those are just some of the things I think we need to think about and bring awareness to.
Yeah, and definitely we are, an agriculture state, so we're always kind of in an interesting space of we have this rich agricultural history, and we have lots of amazing, wheat farmers, soy farmers, cattle farmers, and everything like that, and there's nothing bad to say there.
Right.
Clearly, we got to feed the world, but we just noticed that we have a lot of farmers, like Ronaldo's saying, that they're really focused on, I want to feed my community right here. And so figuring out how to just make it easier to do that, because I think at one point it was happening, at least more, even in our history. And so it's like, what has changed and what needs to change to make that possible again, and a lot easier than it is right now.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we're kind of dancing around, there have been some federal grant programs that have been incredibly impactful in this space, that have just been canceled through the USDA.
Oh, right.
So the Local Food Procurement Act.
Local Food Purchasing Agreement.
Purchasing Agreement. I was close. LFPA. So the LFPA program allowed food banks to buy a lot of local produce that they otherwise would not have had the budget to sustain. And it's been an incredibly impactful program on our producers, to have a steady stream of income where their food is still getting out into the community and they're being paid a fair rate for their life's work,
Right.
basically.
And this program is an example of that investment, in how can we help our local food farmers be more competitive and kind of scale up to a place where we're able to sell to more homelands at a lower price, because this LFPA dollars was kind of like a purchasing agreement amount that we could give to all the producers, so they know, okay, I'm going to have at least X number of dollars sales this year. I can count on that. I can focus on farming, and when those sales come in, I can reinvest in my own infrastructure and get a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger for next year. So if we had some kind of, maybe state funded, because at this point the national program is gone, 10 years, $1 million a year, something like that we could start building on, I think we could unlock, a lot of potential in our ability to feed ourselves as a state.
And it's an investment in the community. I mean, if we were to get $1 million a year put into local food, 70 to 80% of that would go right back to farmers. So in the local food model that we're, trying to build, so what's like the average and conventional food, like that a farmer would make per dollar? Is it like pennies to the dollar?
Something pretty low of the food dollar. What a farmer actually keeps, it's
because
really
there's
low.
so many
It's a very
steps in
small
that chain. But in a local food system, you have farmers a lot more directly involved in their communities, and a lot of that money is going right back into the local economy. So it's really,
a win-win-win.
it's a win-win-win for sure.
Right. And so that federal cuts really has a big impact, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's had an impact on us in 3 or 4 different ways at least. But
And several of our farmers have either they've not planted as much this year, or they've pivoted to planting different crops that they're more confident that they can sell, instead of having, food that they can't afford to harvest because they can't sell it, so they can't pay
Right.
the labor to get it off the farm.
And how many farmers do you guys work with?
So at any given week, there's kind of like on season and off season. We're going from on to off season right now. So regularly dropping off right now, I don't know, 4 to 10. But in peak season, 20 to 30. And honestly, we have a stack of applications that's, I don't know, there's 70 in there, something like that. And that if we had more demand, we could bring on even more. The farmers are there. The farmers have product. The farmers want to grow. The farmers are ready to produce. I think sometimes that's a misnomer in things that I hear is like, oh, we need more farmers. And we don't need more farmers right now. We need more buyers.
We need
And
more
then we need
market.
more farmers.
Right.
Yeah.
But we need more buyers. And so when people are asking, like, how can I help the movement? What can I do? You eat at a restaurant, ask them, is anything on this menu local? Like, do you know where to get something local? Yeah, have you heard of the OKC Food Hub? Like, we need eaters, community members, to start asking some more questions. No offense to Sprouts, but you go in there, it says the farmer's market. A lot of people take that at face value, and they're like, oh, yeah, this farmer's market store. All this must be local. Ask a question. Like, it really isn't. Like, not one thing. So wherever you go, wherever you eat, start the conversation and just saying, is any of this locally grown? Have you heard of ways that it can be? Like, here's a supplier. Like, sometimes they don't know it existed. Sometimes they don't care enough, but people need to know that it's a priority. It makes our conversations a lot easier. And when it is, again, investing in the local economy, you're often getting a much more nutrient-dense product. Like, a lot of our producers are focused on the way that they grow things. So if you compared like a conventional apple versus, a locally grown apple where someone's paying attention to how the soil is fed, et cetera, the number of nutrients that you're going to find in each one, it's like 5 times different or something. They've had studies on these, but so you're getting a higher quality, fresher, better tasting, supporting your local economy. Those are the reasons we should care, and those are the reasons, people should start those conversations.
And specifically just talking about apples, like if one of our farmers is selling apples, they were probably picked like the week before, instead of they've been sitting in a warehouse for a year in Washington. So there's a big difference.
Which
there.
I love my winter apple, so
Yes,
it's great.
I do.
But
I do too.
if you can get it fresh that day, you can tell the taste difference.
Yeah, for sure. Give us a website where people can go learn more information about OKC Food Hub.
So our website is www.okcfoodhub.org. There's a bunch of information on there, so definitely check us out.
You can sign up to be a wholesale buyer. You can also donate. We are a 501c3.
And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at OKC Food Hub. And we'll be hoping to try to get on LinkedIn and maybe look at some TikTok stuff. I don't know.
Got to get the TikTok.
I know it.
We're hesitant.
It's one of those things. If you're not on there, then you're not on there.
Yeah.
But you got to get on there to get in the game. So
Right.
we're looking at doing that as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, for coming in. I want to thank Ronaldo, Rachel and Jenna, OKC Food Hub. Thanks, guys, for coming in today.
Thank you.